Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again for another episode of Whistle Talk. Coming at you once again, Mike D, the referee, Mike D'Ambrosio here, being joined once again by my buddy Daniel Chamberlain. Daniel, what is happening, my man?
Well, Mike, I'm sure that your followers can tell if they're watching. My angle's all weird. Looking at the side of my face. I went through a big update the studio, and I really haven't got very far into it. It literally was like purchase a screen, and then where does everything else go? I don't know. So
It's a work in progress.
Yes, Band-Aid on it right now. We will figure it out as we go.
I mean, we could turn your camera off if you want, but
Nah, it's good.
It's all good.
This is my bad side, so it's only better as you move along.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's funny. I look back at some of my some of the older episodes, some of the original episodes where I had like nothing behind me and all that fun stuff, and my camera sucked. And now that it's not the camera anymore, now it's just me.
I love it.
But yeah, I get what you're going through. I've done it a couple times myself, but once again, as always, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for all the listeners out there that are taking your time tonight. I've got one. It's a very informative show. This is kind of my take two of it. I put one out last year, but tonight Daniel and I are going to go over some football officiating philosophies, and I find it super important because Daniel and I were just talking before we hit the record button. We're in the playoffs. I think now nationwide, everybody is in some realm of the playoff world at this point in time. I know some states were a little earlier than us. We here in New Jersey, we just finished round 3. So we had our sectional finals, and now we're getting into our group finals, or group semifinals coming up. So I know everybody is some way, fashion getting into the playoffs. So I wanted to kind of go over the philosophies again of what our mindset should be going into the game, kind of our pregame game plan. So, and Daniel was once again happy to jump on so he could kind of figure out what the hell were they thinking.
That's good. And, man, I think this really is a good topic because, on the football coaching podcast or the coaching 101 podcast, which is the two that I do, we have to talk about philosophy because it kind of sets the basement, right? It sets the floor for where your fundamentals of what you're doing starts and your character. And, right, like you got to have that, the pillars of your program or of your career, whatever. I don't, maybe it doesn't translate exactly, but as a coach, I got to know what my philosophy is so I can build everything else out, right? And so you got to be able to do that too. What is your philosophy for all of these things? And maybe it's going a different way. Once again, you shared the notes and I opened them and didn't read through. But so if I call something out ahead of time, be like, yeah, dummy, it's in the notes later. But the, I think of things like, you say, hey, there's a lot of hand fighting, right? They're letting them play. Boy, they're letting the boys play. Right? That is, to me, an officiating philosophy versus let's call every ticky-tacky foul. The old saying is like, in every single play of football, there's a holding somewhere, right? Someone's holding someone, offense or defense. So it's like, do you want to see dirty laundry every play of the game, or do you want to let the boys play a little bit? And then if one of them becomes a real advantage, then we'll try to knock that one down. So
100%.
You got to know where you stand.
Yep. And every crew is going to be a little bit different. And you on the coaching side, I'm sure that you've heard or possibly even said it. Well, they didn't call that last week, or they let us do that last week. Right. So every philosophy, every crew is going to be slightly different in how they officiate the game. We try to be as uniform as possible with our rules knowledge. We're in the state of New Jersey. We've talked about mechanics. We're pretty uniform now in where we're going to be stationed in our mechanics. But everybody's, I mean, this is the human element. Everybody sees things a little bit different, and how we interpret it, and what we digest and then possibly regurgitate back out. These are all important things that there should be some type of baseline. And I'm hoping, and I stole tonight's presentation from a couple different places online, one of them being my New Jersey mechanics manual. We have a philosophy section in the back. I know Ohio has a philosophy section, kind of piggybacked off of that, and a couple other places I copy and pasted per se into this presentation tonight, but it's all stuff that it's vital and important stuff that we do need to know. And again, going into the game, it's not something that we want to change mid game, that all of a sudden I'm throwing 5 holding flags where I haven't thrown 5 holding flags this year. In general, like we don't want to be that crew that, unless it's there, unless we have to call it. So we're going to kind of dive into that. But before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the show, do me a favor, hit those follow and subscribe buttons right now, or when you get to where you get to. It's free. It helps. It does all that fun stuff. While you're at it, leave some comments. Tell me, Mike, your philosophy sucks, or Mike, you're the greatest ever. It's all BS one way or the other. But hit those, give us some comments, some reviews, whatever it may be. Just all that feedback does help, gives me a better idea of what you, the listeners, want to hear, possibly, or not hear. So do me those favors and just click those things. And once again, go to the YouTube site. So if you want to take a look at Daniel's angle and his not so good side of what he says, but you could also see the he had a bottle of bourbon in the background that he moved, and I'm going a little white. Oh, it's not vodka. It's just water tonight. So just going a little plain Jane tonight on the beverage side. But yeah, do us those favor and find those places and hit us up.
Love it.
All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Get to our slideshow presentation. So here we go once again, our football officiating philosophy, a comprehensive guide to fair and effective game management. I felt very regal typing that portion in. I was like,
As you should have. That's a very good one.
So this again is our playoff edition. So we're going to kind of dive right in. This one is definitely one that I stole, but it talks about how our philosophy needs to be what in the terms, and I'm going to quote them in the notes because I can't remember which exact site I got this for, so I don't want to be pulling it from somebody, but a 3-legged stool of officiating excellence. And it basically comes down for all of us officials to have our rules knowledge, know our mechanics, and have our philosophy and intent. And we kind of break them down with our rules knowledge, which, well, if you've listened to the show before, I don't really have to dive into that one. We're making sure that we know the rules book and the case book and all those other things. The mechanics, once again, your mechanic and your positioning puts you in position for you to see and digest the rules that you're taking so much time putting into your brain. Well, now let's put ourselves in the proper position so that we could see them and observe the right action at the right time to enforce the penalties properly. But the last one now is the philosophy and the intent. A firm yet flexible understanding of why the rules exist and what the rules makers intended when they created or modified them. And this includes recognizing how the rules have evolved to address specific game situations. That one's huge. We got to understand, we got to know game situations. We got to understand what's going on in the game. So it continues and it says all 3 legs are strong. It makes the game thrive. What's the adage? You're only as strong as your weakest link. The chain's only as strong as the weakest link. Well, it's the same thing. I don't know that I've ever sat on a 2-legged stool before. You're going to tip over and fall one way or the other. So we want to be very stable with what we're doing, but flexible. Okay, firm yet flexible. So that's just a little backstory of what we're going to be kind of diving into. So Daniel, I'll let you take slide number 2 here.
Absolutely. Balance between rules and game flow. Football rules are designed to ensure fairness and balance between offense and defense, guaranteeing that neither party is disadvantaged. However, rules are written in black and white, while real game situations exist in shades of gray. Key principle: proper rule application requires officials to understand both the letter of the law and the spirit of the rules. This means recognizing when strict rule enforcement would disrupt game flow unnecessarily. I think the unnecessarily is a key word there.
Big one.
Distinguishing between technical violations and fouls that genuinely impact the outcome. Applying rules consistently while adapting to the level of competition. Understanding that what constitutes a foul at one level may not be a foul at another. The goal is to create an environment where the game belongs to the players, not the officials. These are excellent points, and there's one there. One, consistency. That's all I can ask for. I don't even care about last week what you did or what my refs did, but between the whistles of this game, I need to know what is consistent. You think about an umpire in baseball, right?
Yep.
What does his strike zone look like? As long as it's the same for both teams, no matter who's pitching and who's at bat, and it doesn't matter what style they use, a sidearm pitcher gets the same strike zone as a traditional pitcher, right? I want
100%.
that in football. If I'm an up-tempo team, I want the same rules as someone who's going to muddle huddle and take it down to 5 seconds before they break and get up and drag the clock out. I want the same rules applied to both. So I think consistency is probably the most important piece in my mind. Now, obviously, I don't have a real officiating philosophy. I guess kind of I do. I have what I expect of my officials, right? So maybe that's the philosophy I expect them to fit. And that three-legged stool kind of does make sense. Like, I want you to know what you're doing. I want you to have the mechanics so that you can see what is actually happening. And then I want you to apply them fairly.
Correct.
And then the other one is talking about what things that genuinely impact the outcome. I have been watching film and noticed that, like, a team gets away with a crap ton of false starts. Like, man, and we see this in the NFL, right? Wasn't it the Chiefs?
With the tackle falling.
That left tackle every time was false start. Every time. And they almost never called it. Look at this year. Okay, right now we have the guards for Philadelphia off every single time they go before the ball snapped during the tush push. So it's like those is at a higher level. I expect a higher strictness. Those guards on the tush push, that matters.
Yes.
That matters way less than if they get a little bit of a start on a pass play, right? It's tush push. They're trying to get a yard. It matters. When a high school tackle accidentally gets out of his stance a split second early, it matters a lot less. There's not a single pass rusher that's like, time matters so much to him that he's got to beat him by that, 3/1000ths of a second or whatever. So, yes, I want it called when I'm on defense, but I want understanding when I'm on offense. That's what we all want, right?
Yes.
We want tick-tacky when it hurts us and understanding when it would, I guess, hurt us against ourselves. But
scratch that, reverse it.
Yeah. Reverse that.
So
anyway, my 2 cents on that slide there.
Here's an example that I want to throw at you, and I'm sure that you have seen this on probably 90% of kickoffs. Is there typically one guy on the kicking team that is just a step ahead of the kicker before he kicks the ball?
That's one of those that you see it a lot. It's called, 10% of the time, maybe. It gets called quite often in Oklahoma, but it's usually like one time a game to kind of set the tone, and then.
But so on a lot of those, especially when I was a wing, I would just go, "Hey, coach, just watch your second man in from the top. He's a little bit quick. Just make sure that he's back." But that's on a general kickoff where most likely they're kicking the ball deep, and now they're looking to run 40, 50, 60 yards to make the tackle. So is that extra 6 inches that they may have crossed the line going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things? No. But now when we know that it's an onside kick coming,
yeah,
damn Skippy, you're going to be behind that line, or else you're going to see a yellow hanky going up in the air. Like, that's the time that we are bearing down. So that's, again, knowing when to call it. Now, if the guy is 3 yards before the kicker, well, yeah, that one you got to throw. But if they're just a foot over the line, we're going to kind of let that one go in the normal flow of the game. But now when the situation comes in, well, now we have to really bear down on that one. So that's just kind of an idea and a mindset. And Daniel, and again, I've always tried to be as honest as possible. Full disclosure, I had an unnecessary flag this week. It was an odd situation.
Pick it up? Did you man up and pick it up?
I didn't, but we had the conversation after the fact. I'm like, to my white hat, I'm like, dude, wave me off. Tell me, I'm like, my ego is gone because it was one of those ones. It was a tripping penalty. It's one you don't see often, and I saw it, and I was just like, oh man. And I pulled the flag out. And right at that moment when my arm came up, I'm like, what am I doing? Dang it. Like, but everybody in the stadium sees that flag coming out. I can't just then retuck it back in. So I threw it, and the white hat's like, what do you got? And I'm like, I got tripping. Daniel, this was a running clock situation.
Oh no.
We didn't, it was totally unnecessary. And I screwed up. I got overly I don't know, excited that I saw that because that's the second time that I've thrown that flag ever for a tripping. But it wasn't necessary. But we marched off the 15 yards. We wound the clock. The team that was losing was the beneficiary. So I mean, if there's anything, not that it helped anybody in any way, but yeah, when we were sitting down at the bar afterwards, I'm like, just wave it off. I said, pick that flag up and wave it in the sky. And I owe the first round of beers for everybody. Like my ego is gone. Like it was a knee jerk reaction. It shouldn't have happened. I should have been better than that. And wave it off. It wasn't necessary. To validate it though, I asked the kid, I'm like, yo, man, you can't be sticking your leg out. And the kid turned to me. He's like, oh, Mr. Official, it wasn't him. That was me. And yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I couldn't do that. So the kid fessed up to it. So it made me feel a little bit better. So it was a foul. It was a penalty. The hanky should have been in there, but it wasn't the time nor the place. It could have been one where I just had that conversation.
Mike, you as a ref, can you walk over and say, or on your O to O, hey, this is what I threw. Can we just waive this one? Like,
yeah,
my bad. Or have you already stopped it and you're like, hell.
That's where my mindset was initially. It was like, hell. But again, hindsight, going back and looking at it, I'm like, why didn't you just wave it off? Like because some people take it personally. You're waving off my foul. I saw what I saw.
Yeah.
But again, it was the wrong time for that. Now, my initial one, it's a safety thing. The hold, I'm not thinking about that. But this one was a safety one. It's almost like when you get an egregious face mask, because this penalty was a 15-yard penalty. So it's a safety thing because God forbid two kids smash shins together and now one kid cracks his leg. Now that's on me. And why didn't you call that? So by the letter of the law, which talking about on this slide, I was right and throwing it. It just, at that point, it could have been a talking to. Could have been, hey, you can't do that. Here's why. And because I still talk to the kid anyway. So again, I'm going to man up to you and to the world to hear. I should have kept that one in my pocket.
Nah, that's all right. Safety is a little different than a technical advantage or what. Like, it's safety. If it's a horse collar, you got to throw it, right? You can't just let it go because that's true safety. So no, I got you, man. Kudos to you to own up to it, but I still think it was a good call.
Well, thank you.
There you go.
But I'm still kicking myself. Anyway, so going on. So we got some core officiating principles here. We want to see it. We don't want to guess, and we want to question ourselves before penalizing. So the first one is to make sure we see the entire play. This, once again, comes back to our mechanics. And if we see something in our periphery and we don't see the whole action, I'm not throwing it. I've worked with guys who threw a flag and they came up to me. It was a sub-varsity game and had a big hit. And I was like, hey, what do you got? He's like, I don't know. What did you see? I'm like, I was focusing in over here. That my keys were here. He's like, it was just a big hit. I'm like, all right. So what do we got? He's like, oh, it was a big hit. It's got to be a penalty. I'm like, for what? Did he face mask? Was it a target? Was it a helmet to helmet? Like, what do you got? He's like, I'm like, all right. I said, I'm going to wave this one off. I'm letting you know because like, if you can't tell me what it is, I didn't see it. I'm not throwing it. I heard it. It sounded like a big hit, but it didn't sound like two plastic helmets or whatever they're made of smacking into each other. It just sounded like a shoulder pad smacking the hell out of somebody. And then the grunt that accompanied it. And we ended up waving it off. And after the game, he's like, thanks. But be in the right position and don't make assumptions. This guy didn't see it. He heard it. it's a JV game, so yeah, we don't
Good
get
learning point,
everything.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you might have mentioned a few weeks ago, and maybe what you were actually saying was like, don't do this. But if you see smoke, right, there was probably something. If a kid's helmet's turned around backwards, someone probably spun it around by the face mask. So how does that go? Can you assume there if you see smoke, or do you have to actually see the entire play?
To be honest with you, we want to see the entire play. Because some kids, especially now with the head coverings that a lot of the kids are wearing, 2-3 years ago, how many helmets were popping off of kids' heads because they had the mesh type of do rag? I don't even know
Yeah.
exactly what it's called, and it was just sliding the helmet off, and they weren't pulling the chin straps too tight. So something like that. Now, when I talk about where there's smoke, I'm talking about like when I see something that is starting to look fishy. Now that's going to grab my attention. Sort of like plays going north and south, or plays going north, and I see a blocker coming back south. Well, that's the smoke that I'm okay. I'm going to focus on that individual, and if he pulls up and puts his hands up, I got nothing. But that's the smoke reference that I'm referring to in that aspect.
Right.
Again, kids' helmets on sideways. Yeah, one of the 6 or 7 or 5 of us should have seen how that got like that. But if I don't see, I can't. I shouldn't throw it.
Gotcha. I love it.
So then that goes to the second point where we just mentioned, don't guess. If you haven't seen the entire play, keep the flag inside. Missing a call is better than making an incorrect call that will be exposed on film. So I'd rather say you missed 4 holding penalties as opposed to you had 3 phantom interference calls. What are you doing? And I know the NFL gets the brunt of it because you've got millions upon millions of worldwide viewers that are watching them and 9,000 replays. There was just a play in last night's game that it was a phantom interference call. I saw the replay of it. It wasn't there, but I wasn't on the field. I didn't have the angle that the official had. So it's easy for me watching it on the screen behind me to say, he made a mistake on that one. But I'd rather not throw that flag than throw it incorrectly. But we're going to make mistakes. And then before penalizing, ask these 3 questions, and these are quick. Did I see the entire play? Am I sure that it was a foul? And did it have an impact on the play itself? Well, the pass interference one, yeah, that had a major impact on the play. That was the point of the attack on the holds. That was the thing. This official, and afterwards they had a quote from the white hat from the NFL game. They broke it down and gave the terminology that is what the official reported to the white hat. So they saw the entire play and they were sure that it was a foul, which is why they threw the flag. Human error, looks like a mistake from me and the other guys on TV, the announcers and stuff, but it's kind of the mindset we want to have on each and every time that flag does come out. So,
You know, sometimes refs get a lot of flack unnecessarily as well, right? And did you see the entire play? You sure it was a foul? Obviously, I'm a big Sooners fan, so watching when they kicked the crap out of Alabama a couple nights ago, I say kicked the crap out of. We won by 2 points, but it was in Tuscaloosa, so let's go. And it came down to a 4th down, right? And our DB, our corner, broke up the pass, and social media went wild about that was defensive pass interference. And then all the other clips come out, and it wasn't. He hit it clean. He actually hit the ball before he ever touched the player. The ball was low. That player kind of went down for the ball. The DB went over, knocked the ball down. Earlier in the game, there was another one they wanted pass interference. And when you get back to the replay and they say, oh, I can't believe you missed pass interference. And then you see that it was actually the offensive player was pulling the jersey of the defender to like pull him into his lap to try to get
that interference call.
Pass interference, right? The defender would probably be out of position, but the offensive guy didn't look like he was going to make the play anyway. So he's like tugging him to him.
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, you're right. They did miss one, right? They missed an offensive pass interference. He's pulling the jersey. So thank you so much for pointing that out. But, and they picked up a flag of a face mask on our quarterback that you go back and replay, and he literally swats his face mask, grabs it with the tips of his fingers, pulls the face mask down over his eye, like his helmet is over his eyes, and then Mateer kind of just wings a ball out there, and I think it's just incomplete or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, we understand you're gonna miss them. You're gonna see something that in there that you don't have omnipotent view. You have. It's like yelling at a quarterback who misses the fifth read was wide open at the beginning of the play. Like, who
Yeah.
cares? His eyes aren't over there. He can only see so much, right? So I appreciate those three questions, kind of what you are basing it off of. You're right. We see him screw up at all levels, but
Yeah. And again, coach, why did you make that call? It's there on every side. So now we're going to kind of break down a couple of different plays, the particular plays, such as DPI and OPI and some holds and stuff like that, and just what our mindset should be when we think we see something like that. So our first one is going to be the ineligible receiver downfield. And I got to repeat myself. This is one of the hardest ones for the short wings to call because they're looking at the line of scrimmage. They're looking at perforating a receiver, trying to follow the ball. They've got the spot. They need to make sure that the quarterback is not crossing the line of scrimmage. And they need to be able to see, okay, that quarterback who was in shotgun and took 3 steps back, so he's now approximately 6 to 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, is now throwing the ball to a receiver 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And we have to see if that lineman is more than 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage when the ball came out of his hand. Yeah, all that.
yeah.
So we want to make sure that we got it. An eligible player must be more than 2 yards downfield at the time that the ball is released. Again, throw in all those factors. At the time that the ball is released, they're looking at everything. You must know the exact location of the downfield player when the ball leaves the quarterback's hand. The exact location.
And
that's when you
hard.
call it.
Yeah, when players are, you already have a tight end that's in line, right? I think back to the RPO game. Like, people have been defensive coaches have been so pissy about, well, yeah, of course they're going to make yards. Their linemen are 5 yards downfield when they throw the ball. Well, they're not. Right. They're absolutely not. Generally 1 to 2, maybe a step past here and there, but how are you going to see all that? I have an inline tight end that absolutely can go downfield. So it's like, did I see him? Was it the guy next to him? All their jerseys are the same. You know, like, it's a lot to see.
And what if you got a really fast offensive tackle that the ball is released at 2 yards, but then they're making a block at 3 or 4 yards when the ball is actually caught?
Yeah.
That's where it gets difficult. So I'm going to tell you right away, I'm not going to make that call unless the lineman is egregiously downfield. Me as an umpire in our mechanics here in New Jersey, that's not my call anymore. But when I have an offensive lineman running past me and the quarterback is scrambling back there, I'm going to help my guys out. That could be one that I'm going to throw to help them out because they got to get the spot if that quarterback gets sacked. So when not to call it, well, if you don't know the exact downfield position when the ball was released, or if the pass does not go more than 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, ignore it. Ignore the ineligible receiver downfield unless their position impedes the defender from making the play on the ball. So that's not necessarily where we're going to have an eligible downfield. I'll probably look for more OPI in that scenario if they're impeding the defender when it's 2 yards, unless the ball's thrown behind the line of scrimmage. Then who cares about any of it? So the golden rule, when in doubt, the ineligible player is not illegally downfield. And Daniel,
making tackles after a punt or catching it. That's what he caught it. He caught it.
So, talking about smoke, RPO game, when I see the quarterback bobble the snap and they're really slow with what their read might be, and then you got linemen that are downfield, well, that smoke is going to be that bobbled snap, that drop snap or different thing like that. And then the quarterback picks the ball up and throws it. So that's where, okay, I got smoke. Now I'm going to look to see if we got something else that's going along with it. So
again, this is another one of those, as we talked about unnecessary penalties a bit ago, 100%. As a coach, I don't want you to throw any penalties, but those guys often don't know their location, right? Those O linemen, they're just running their tracks and trying to get over there. They don't know that they've gone that far. So if you can teach them, and they don't keep screwing it up the rest of the game and cost me somewhere else where it matters, as we get close to the end of the game, maybe we need a play to win, and now they're getting it because you've let them get away with it all night long.
Yeah.
Throw it. Funny story real quick. If you don't listen to the podcast with me and Kenny Simpson, earlier this season, I believe it might have been last season, he has an offensive line coach that his son, the offensive line coach son, is on the team. They did like a waggle pass, and the offensive lineman is blocking like 35 yards downfield to go into halftime. So it calls a touchdown back and then they go into half without that touchdown. And he was over there chewing his butt. And he's like, Dad, I wasn't that far downfield. Like he just didn't comprehend. And they put it on film. He's like, you're 35 yards downfield. You're not just 3. You're 35. Like he doesn't understand, right? They're in the game. They're in that mode. Block that guy. If that guy turns and runs to be a pass defender, I still got to go block him. So they just don't understand sometimes. So throw it early and teach them so we don't get a late one that hurts us more.
Yeah. And the RPO game is setting up offensive linemen for failure with the RPO game, because that one, you're not telling the lineman you're throwing the ball. It's run pass option for people that aren't familiar with RPO, run pass option. And typically the run is the first option, and that's what the linemen are blocking. So if I'm told my rule on this run is to down block and there's nobody in my gap, so I'm going and finding the nearest linebacker, well, my down block track is taking me to the linebacker who might be 4 yards downfield. If that ball is then thrown while I'm going to block my linebacker, well, my ass is getting chewed out for being illegally downfield. But if they do run the ball and my linebacker makes a tackle, my ass is getting chewed out for not getting to that linebacker quick enough.
Yeah.
So the RPO is a difficult for the offensive line, and it's difficult for the officials too in that same aspect. But again, where there's smoke, then we got to look for it. When I'm the umpire standing 8 yards behind and all of a sudden 63 comes running past me, and I'm like, that's not right. So those are the things. That's the smoke we're talking about. All right. So now DPI, the fun one. What constitutes a DPI? What constitutes that foul? Early contact, not playing the ball, playing through the back, grabbing and restricting, armbar, and cutting off the receiver. Those are the things we need to see. We need to be able to report to a coach. Coach, this is what I had. And when we talk about cutting off a receiver, we'll even include the receiver who puts his foot in the ground to come back to the ball, and the defensive guy just kind of plows through them because, well, they're not looking for the ball. But I need to be able to go to a coach and say, Coach, your DB was early. Okay, there's one. Coach, he played through their back. He got there early. He was grabbing and restricting. He was using an arm bar where he was clutching and had the other receiver's arm kind of pinned between his body, or he cut the receiver off. So that's the things that I'm looking for. And again, I want to be sure that I have one of these things, and I need to be able to not only tell myself that that's what I saw, but I need to be able to go up to the coach and say, this is what I have. Because if I'm not on that sideline, well, sure as heck, what did he have? Who was it on? What did he have? And now we're relaying it O to O. That coach wants to know, Coach, he had interference because it didn't look right. Yeah, that one's not going to fly.
Yeah. I love that some of them say it without playing the ball, and some say regardless of whether you're playing the ball. Like the arm bar, right? It says regardless if you're playing the ball or not, it doesn't matter. You can't physically touch that guy. But if you cut him off to go pick off a hitch because he was slow in his cut and his break, and you that's fine, right? You're playing the ball. You literally got to the ball and took it away from him. That's fine. Don't armbar him on the way.
Correct. So, but just by pinning I can be looking back and make a play on the ball, and I mean, heck, you see all over the interweb, the great one-handed catches that receivers, not necessarily DBs because they're playing DB because they can't catch, but the receivers are making one-handed. Some DBs are pressing that receiver's hand down to try to break up the ball with the other hand. So it's just something that we got to keep a lookout for. So here's what does not constitute a defensive interference call, pass interference call, when their feet get tangled. When both players are looking back at the ball, or neither player is looking at the ball, and they trip over each other, I'm not going to throw that one. I'm not going to throw it because it's incidental contact is what we're going to refer it to. Coaches don't like hearing that one. Their feet got tangled. But if they're both trying to make a play for the ball, I'm not going to call it on anybody just because they tripped up on each other. I'm like, I've tripped, you've tripped. I mean, it happens. And now you got two stud athletes running full speed to try to find one little oblong shaped brown thing flying through the air. Sometimes their feet get tangled. It's when their arms get tangled purposely. We're going to throw that one. We're not going to call it when they're making a legitimate play on the ball. Okay, that one we've talked about. Each player has the right to that ball when it is in the air. So we got to give each player the right to go get that ball. And we don't want to really call it when it's a real bang bang play. Like just because it looked like he was early. Well, no, make sure that they were early because you got some athletes that are playing these positions. Don't penalize the kid for being too damn good. Penalize him because he held or he restricted or he got there early, not because he made a bang bang play. So if you're in doubt, keep that thing tucked. But to go back to what you said, be consistent with it. If the other team makes a bang bang play, make sure shit that you got that foul before you throw that flag. So,
Love it.
Sorry, I cussed.
I think we've cussed a couple times now. It's okay.
Yes.
This one's rated E for excellent.
Absolutely. So some other things that we're not going to call: when a defender places his hand on the receiver's body but does not do any type of turn, push, or pull. Listen, you're blind. You're trying to find in the air. You're taught that as a defensive back.
Absolutely.
Locate the receiver with your hand just to feel where they are, because if they're not there, they've probably broken their route off, and you're looking silly right now. So you want to keep a hand on them while you're playing the ball and looking back at the ball. But if you're grabbing, turning, twisting, doing any of those things, well, then we got something. But hand placement, just because you see the hand on the body, you don't really have nothing. Incidental contact, again, it could be hand, body. Both players are competing for the ball. And if it doesn't restrict them, leave it alone. And again, now our golden rule: if there's any question whether the contact is incidental, the ruling should be no interference. Keep that thing tucked. But again, be consistent. All right, Daniel, you want to take the offensive side?
Of course, OPI, offensive pass interference. What constitutes a foul? Offensive pass interference, or OPI, occurs when receivers create unfair advantages through illegal contact. 4 situations constitute OPI: initiating contact with separation, so a receiver shoving or pushing off a defender to create separation and attempt to catch a pass, which to me seems like the most commonly called one, even reading the list. Yes. Number 2, driving through a defender. 3, a pick play. Coaches, shame on you. And 4, picking off a defender. Driving through a defender, like that one was tough because you got to teach these kids, like you said earlier, like everyone has a right to the ball. Well, you have a right to run your route.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you to run a slant and he lines up inside leverage, I still want you to run the slant, right? So when does that foul occur? This says a receiver driving through a defender who has established a position on the field. So if he's backpedaling on the snap or he's trying to press me on the snap, maybe we got a little wiggle room, right? But if he just fell back into his zone because he's a country cover 3 defender, and then you're trying to run a post and you just run through him, now you look like, who's the Denver head coach that got trucked by the ref yesterday?
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton got ran over,
Did
trucked, and double flagged for it. Obviously, just one penalty, but
yes.
Both refs got him. Yeah, so you can't do that, right? And then the pick play. Now, I will have to ask what the difference is. We're going to read them so I can see the difference. But a pick play is one receiver initiating contact with the defender downfield to prevent them from making a play on a ball thrown to another receiver in the same area. Contact must occur for a flag. And then the other one is a receiver picking off defender who's attempting to cover another receiver. So those really go hand in hand, right? Like it's basically the same.
Yeah, the number 3, the pick play in general, is talking about more for that goal line type play that you're seeing that the NFL kind of allows a little bit more leniency to. But picking off a defender is probably a little bit more downfield. So where you have some type of Not necessarily. Well, yeah, it's going to be some type of cross, but it could be a post and a corner where you got two deep routes, and now one guy literally runs into that safety who's trying to cover that corner route coming off the inside receiver. So that one's not very common. The pick play and the initiating contact are probably going to be our most called OPI situations. All right. So when don't we want to do it?
Recognizing exceptions to OPI prevents over officiating. That's the best thing I've seen on these slides yet, and maintains game flow. Screen pass exception. OPI will not be called on a screen pass where the ball is overthrown behind the line of scrimmage, but subsequently, Jesus Christ, lands 2 yards or less beyond the line of scrimmage. And linemen are blocking downfield unless such blocking prevents or hinders a defensive player from making a play on the ball. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the screenplay is the ultimate weapon against all the rules, right? Because, man, you really can. Your linemen can all be downfield. Yeah, you're generally trying to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, but how many slow screens end up like 2 yards downfield, like it says, and then what? Like you get all those breaks from the penalties, but you still made it. You advance the ball.
Yep.
Anyway, driving on. After ball contact, it is not OPI or DPI if contact is made by an eligible player after the ball has been touched or tipped by any player. We see that a lot in the NFL by the defensive line tipping balls, and then the poor receiver just gets crushed. Look-in pass, no OPI on a look-in pass where contact is shoulder to shoulder. And then pick play exception. It is not OPI on a pick play if the defensive player is blocking the offensive player when the contact occurs and the offensive receiver doesn't initiate a separate action, or if contact occurs within 1 yard of line of scrimmage. So lots of exceptions on that one to get the pick play going, right? Because if they start out press, it's press man, it looks like I have every right to run my slot receiver over there and pick that DB off because he's making contact.
Coach Daniel, it's called a rub route. Not a pick, a rub route.
That's right. That's what we teach it. Yes.
So, but
what
yeah,
look in pass. How are you describing that to an official who is not going to throw this?
With shoulder to shoulder, I'm thinking where both guys are turning in at the same time. They're both looking in, and you make shoulder to shoulder contact, or say on a curl route and the receiver's coming back to the ball, and now you have a safety breaking on that ball, and all of a sudden they're both looking at the ball, but we got shoulders smashing into each other. Yeah. They're both making a play on the ball, so I don't want to call that one because again,
so it's just the offensive version of what you called earlier for the defense, right?
Correct.
And you're both just making a play.
Correct. All right. So that talks about our OPIs and DPIs. And again, if you're not 100% sure, keep it in. Keep it in. Let them play football. So this one, I kind of put this slide in a little bit earlier. It should have been maybe a little bit at the end or right in the beginning, but this is something that we got to think about with just when in doubt. And again, it's a framework. This is now the situational rules that we're talking about. So the first one I have here is hits away from the ball near the play's end. Call it a dead ball foul instead of a live ball foul. So if you have to call it, let's make it a dead ball foul as opposed to a live ball foul because, well, it could be a matter of a first down or change of possession, different things like that. So just kind of use your discretion on when to do it and what the situation is bringing to you. Another one is quarterback passed or fumbled the ball and you're unsure. When in doubt, call it an incomplete forward pass. Okay. Or a forward pass, I should say. And typically in that scenario, we're talking incomplete because of the fumble aspect.
I love talking more of the intentional grounding, but there's a play I think it was the NFL. Heck, it might have been the OU game. Heck, I don't remember. I was watching ball this weekend. Anyway, and the quarterback, a screen doesn't set up, so he just chunks it at the feet of the lineman in front of him. I think it was John Mateer, and they threw the intentional grounding, and it's like I heard the announcers with the rules analyst expert being like, generally you at least want the ball to get halfway to your receiver. Yeah. Like if you're going to spike it in the ground, you got to at least halfway get it there where it looks like, oh, I just couldn't get any oomph. If it's less than half, we got to go with the intentional grounding.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. This is obviously going to go back years now, but in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady got called for intentional grounding against the Giants, because he just overthrew the receiver by like 40 yards. He was getting pressured and he just launched the ball down the middle of the field. There was no receiver in the area. And when you're talking about intentional grounding, it's to um, because of the pressure, because they don't want to take a sack. And he was not happy with it because everyone thinks of intentional grounding being right down at the ground, like you're talking about. But this one was nowhere near. There was no receiver legitimately within 30 yards of where this ball went. And nobody even
He had a
running a
really
route in
strong
that
arm,
direction.
and fight or flight kicked in.
Yes.
I love Brady. I hated him back then, but I sure love him now. What a dude!
Got more rings on his hand than but we beat him twice, baby. Woo! Okay, moving on. QB's pass is forward or backwards. When in doubt, we're going to rule that a forward pass as opposed to a backward pass because that goes back to the last one of is it a fumble or a forward pass?
Yeah.
Non-QB pass was forward or backwards. Rule that one a backward pass because we don't want to have an illegal forward pass. So we'd rather probably have a fumble in that scenario. And this one is where you're going to start talking about laterals and different things like that. So if you're in doubt, stick with it as a backwards pass. Unless you definitely know that it went forward, it's a backward pass. When in doubt of the runner being down or fumble before being down, rule the runner down. Again, go to the title. When in doubt. So this is one that you're not seeing completely clear. So if you're in doubt, put them down. Make them down. A block in the back or a block from the side. You don't see it. It's a block in the side. We're not giving them a block in the back. Illegal personal foul for fighting, try to make it a personal foul. Because again, the fighting, it's an automatic ejection. Where if it's just a personal foul, we can give him 15 yards and move on. And that's one, again, knowing the situation, knowing what's going on in the game, knowing the programs that are involved too. If it's a highly contested, traditional dirty game, well, maybe you do want to throw that fight to set the tone. But if you can do it and not throw that fight and say, coach, 56 is giving one right now, you better get him under control the next time he's out, then
that's a really good one because we had a kid that lost two in Oklahoma. It used to be you lose 2 games.
Yep.
And we had a young running back that lost 2 games. Running back ran the ball. I think he got 12 or 14 yards. Pretty good little run. Got tackled. The guy was underneath him. And as he was getting up, like the guy was grabbing him inappropriately, trying to injure him.
Yeah.
And he just stiff-armed his helmet back into the ground, right? Because my running back's getting up on top of this defender. But they called it a punch. And he lost 2 games from his sophomore year or whatever.
Wow.
Because he's getting assaulted, as men know can happen at the bottom of these
bottom
piles.
of the pile. Yep.
And he didn't punch. He just stiff-armed his face mask, put his head back in the dirt, and got away. And it was gone. And so that one stinks because it's like they called it a punch, like he's Conor McGregor sitting on top of this kid, just waylaying him right when he's just trying to get out of the pile. Of course, that's my bias. The other coach probably was like, "Oh, that guy punched my defensive tackle and did no damage because he had a helmet and face mask on, but he's running all over us, so get him out of here."
So it's funny you're bringing that story up because in one of my games recently, I had an offensive player say to me, "Mr. Official, can you watch so and so? He punched me in the first half." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep an eye on it." So again, that's now my smoke. So I'm going to keep a little bit more of an eye on one player just to see what's going on. And after the play, the kid gave him a little one-hand shove to the shoulder pads. He's like, "Did you see him? He just punched me." I'm like, "Come on, man." I'm like, he played football. Was it above and beyond? Yeah. And I talked to the kid. I'm like, but I'm not even throwing a flag for a personal foul on that one, let alone throwing the kid out for fighting. I'm like,
Yeah.
He gave you a little extracurricular innocent pop in essence. It wasn't to the face mask. It wasn't to the head. It was just, yeah, I'm tougher than you, pop to the shoulder pad. Like,
For sure.
come on. This was a big offensive lineman too. I'm like, really, kid, you want me to call that? You're in trouble if you're looking for that one.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right. So late game management, clock management, game philosophy, knowing the timeout situation. Daniel, you want to talk about this one?
I do. We've seen a lot of teams get 4 timeouts or you steal too many. We've seen a lot of weird stuff with time.
Yeah.
It probably goes back to that. the board's never right and the refs get confused. And anyway, because we don't have officials running the scoreboard. So know the timeout situation. If Team A is out of timeouts, they will call plays designed to end near the sideline to stop the clock. Teams will sacrifice yards to stop the clock when desperate to save time. Ruling out of bounds when to stop the clock. Runner is driven out parallel to their path. Runner is driven out even after contact makes them a step or two backwards. Runner dives with the ball. Any part of their body hits the sideline, even simultaneously with their knee hitting the ground in bounds. Making runners inbounds when not to stop the clock. Runner's forward progress is stopped and they are driven backwards or held up. Fumble risk. Runner is tackled, stopped inbounds, and only a second act gets them out of bounds. Runner is short of the line to gain. It's a good one because you want to give them every yard, I assume, right?
Yep.
Coach would probably want closer to the line to gain. The golden rule, when in doubt, put them out of bounds.
Especially late in the game. Because again, going back to that first thing, as an offensive philosophy, what they're attempting to do.
Right. The spirit of the offense, whether he gets that 6 inches to the white line or not.
Correct.
I guess as a defense, I'd be angry because we clearly got him in bounds.
Yep.
But live to fight another day.
And again, there's times and places where, okay, the kid was fighting for that extra yard, or the defense did a great job of defending that sideline, and they kept him in bounds kept him in bounds and stopped his forward progress before he made it out of bounds. Then we're going to give the defense the benefit of the doubt. But again, when in doubt, give him out of bounds. If you see it and you're certain, wind the clock. If that kid does a great job of keeping them in bounds, reward the defense for playing good football too. It's an odd thing to say these days. Reward the defense. All right. Holding. Most difficult call to master. Holding is so freaking subjective, and it changes based on the level of competition. The misconception here is that you can have holding on every play. It misses the point. Like the idea, it's there, but no, we're not going to call it on every play because holding depends on the degree, effect, and the level of play. Daniel, in your coaching tenure, you've probably been involved in a game where it's just two really bad teams. You could
100%.
probably have holding on every play that game, and you'll have a 4-hour game if we threw every single one. Subsequently, you've probably been involved in some high-level football. And unless it's egregious at the point of the attack, let the kids play football. Let that defender learn to chop their arm off, to disengage, to earn that holding penalty that they're getting held for. We just don't want it to be ticky-tack. So our standards by situation, the point of the attack. We got to call the major takedowns that would embarrass you or your crew if you missed. Think about the ones that the general population in the stands can see. That's the one we got to get. And this, again, puts a lot more pressure on our sideline wings because that's the open field ones. Those holds that I get between the guards and the centers and sometimes a tackle that's covered up by the tight end, I'm not really throwing those. The ones by the tackles on a pass protection 7 yards back where they pull down a defensive end, that one, again, everybody can see that. That one we got to hit. So know what you're doing. But now if that hold by that guard or center is egregious and it's right at the point of the attack and that's what springs the ball carrier to go, well, I got to call that one. So call holding at the point of the attack, even if it's not just a takedown. So this is, again, where we can be a little bit late with our flag too. Did the blocker gain an unfair advantage from the hold? This past weekend, playoff game on a kickoff. My number one key is make sure we don't get a pop-up kick. Once I see that the ball is kicked deep, I now bring my field of focus up, and I'm looking for typically the first two guys on either side of the kicker. So 4, kicker 6, however you want to set it up. I'm looking down the middle of the field. Well, right at the end of the play, I saw a kid literally dive and grab the kid's shoulder pads and hold him and bring him down. But it happened, you could say it happened at the point of the attack. Yes, but it happened right at the tackle. So I'm not going to throw that one and tack something on that didn't affect the play. The kid was already tackled. The hold happened about 3 or 4 yards away from it. It's not needed. So that one, I didn't throw an unnecessary flag. So yeah, yay me.
Yay
Uh,
me.
did the defender have his jersey stretched or reached for the ball carrier with one arm? Well, that's one we're going to have to take a look at when you're seeing those shoulder pads start coming out and all that fun stuff. Was the defender taken in an unwanted direction?
Well,
And
I
did the
hope so.
defender,
That's what we pay offensive linemen
I
for.
know, but did the defender give up on pursuit? Daniel, have you seen the guy put his hands up saying, he's holding me, he's holding me? I'm not throwing that one. Not. You could be mugging you. If you're not working to get off that block, I don't care.
I love it. When you talk about this point of attack, the one thing that bugs me as a coach is it seems like we quit running outside zone and mainly jet sweeps because if we set an edge, it's a holding call. If we win the edge, it's a holding call. Just because my tackle athleted up for 10 seconds and sprinted out there and beat an outside backer and we got the edge does not make it a holding call, right? It has seemed like, I don't know if that was just a big emphasis down here or something, but if we win an edge on an outside run play, I almost can bet you my paycheck that it's coming back because they're going to call holding. Especially if a wide receiver applies that block, because apparently they're just skill kids and not allowed to block. And if a wide receiver gets a pancake, now it's a takedown. Now it's a holding call. So it's like we've had to quit. You almost need to change the way you coach to get away from this because of that point of attack. And was there a takedown? If my wide receiver gets a pancake, your DB should have been bigger. It's not my fault you put your worst kid at corner and we got a dude out there that blocked his pants off. You know what I mean? So it has made it kind of rough to, and maybe because of this verbiage, was there a takedown? Did they, we're watching the point of attack.
So I definitely understand your point of view. It shouldn't. And I would recommend to you, don't go away from it. Coach the officials up pregame. Coach, Mr. Official, we run a lot of outside zone. We've worked on our guys getting outside and working that reach block and put that smoke in their mind right then and there so that when they see it, make sure that they have it 100%. But from an offensive lineman point of view, being a former college offensive lineman, I can tell you that outside reach block on outside zone was probably the most difficult one because of who I was as a 6'3", 330-pound offensive lineman, typically going up against a 250, 260-pound, more athletic freak of nature with their hand on the ground defensive end, or even more so, that outside linebacker. The easy blocks for me were those down blocks where I just got my big ass body going downhill and I got in the way of somebody. But now when I had to use my feet more, that's where you get in trouble. And that's where a lot of high school kids get in trouble because blocking is with your feet, not with your hands. If you're doing it right, you're getting your feet in position. And I didn't have the greatest feet, which is why I was a Division III offensive lineman and not a Division I offensive lineman.
We tell all of our guys, your feet is what gets you holding penalties, right? It's not your hands.
Yeah.
It's your feet.
It's when you stop them.
Feet, yeah, you're going to either stop them or they have you beat, and now you're trying to make up for it with your hands. So,
yep.
Excellent points.
So keep coaching it up, keep working on it, keep getting those dudes at wide receivers, pancaking those DBs because they're going to go up for a pass and they're going to get strapped and all that other silly stuff too. So let them have some fun too on the edge and let them all play football.
Love it.
All right, so defensive holding, one you don't normally see too often, especially on the interior. Gosh, I couldn't tell you the last time I threw a defensive lineman for a defensive holding penalty, but they're out there more so on your kick game type of scenarios where they're doing the old pull and opening up that gap.
Gap scheme, baby.
Yeah. But your defensive holding on pass receivers, did the hold impede the receiver from running their route? And did the quarterback even look at the receiver before throwing it elsewhere? So if we don't have them, I'm probably not going to throw it. It's not the NFL where you have the illegal contact beyond 5 yards. So the contact can happen. But if the quarterback's looking to their left and the receiver is being held to their right, I'm probably not going to throw that one. But now if the quarterback looks to the right and we still have it, now the ball's in the air, well, I'm getting rid of that hold. I'm going to throw the DPI because now I got a 15-yarder instead of a 10-yarder. So I'm going to err on the side of not throwing many holding penalties because holding restricts the receiver when they're looking that way. So if I'm looking at you and you're being held and that makes me go to my number 2 or number 3 read, well, that's a defensive holding penalty. That one will throw. But if it's your number 3 and I'm coming the other way, I'm probably going to look to throw DPI instead.
All right, so let me just put this in your ear because here I am, a guy that coaches both sides of the ball, but I coach right now. I need that post to open up. I'm trying to get him to the post. I'm running a smoke and screen and mirrors over on the plate on the left side, and you're not going to throw it. And now he's late to the post because he got held. Now you're taking my actual main route away illegally, and I'm not getting the flag. So does that perspective change, or do you still just have to you got to have your philosophy, right?
Well, yeah, and in that you bring up a very valid point, and you want to throw that post, you want to look the safeties off to the opposite side and then come
100%.
back to it. So yeah, if they're completely disrupting them off of their route, yeah, we still got to call that one. But if it's a short, quick tug and then it's released, we're going to let that one kind of go through and just like with the offensive holding, we're going to kind of let them play football and make your receiver kind of chop the hands and get off them. But yeah, if they're completely restricting them from getting off the line of scrimmage, that they can't get into their route, and it's not just with open hands and just a solid ass chuck and they're holding, yeah, we have to throw that one because that's the main part of the route. So if it gets back there, yes, we're still going to throw that one.
It's a great clarification. Thank you.
All right, formations and play clock. This one we've kind of gone to nausea with just understanding. Communicate. That's just the biggest thing. We could skip over the formations, know who we got, and communicate not only with your other officials, but communicate with the players. Let them know what is going on. Use your mechanics to help get those kids in the right position and honor them. Let's not cut hairs on if they're on or if they're off. If you tell me you're on, I'm going to honor you that you're on unless you're 5 yards back. And next play, I'm going to tell you, son, the line of scrimmage is up here. And like the bullet point says, I always used to give my back leg. Find my back leg, especially on those grass fields. Find my back leg and stay behind my back leg. That'll let you know if you're on the ball or not. So, and give that punch up or punch back. Don't give me a thumbs up. Play clock management. Again, delay games suck. Unless it's super egregious, we want to kind of give you that when we know that the snap is imminent, we're not going to throw that. We're going to give the chop saying, okay, you better hurry your ass up. Okay, you're about to snap. Now my chop might go a little bit slower before I get to the top. And then, okay, now you're delayed. Now I got to bring my hand all the way back down to grab that flag and blow the whistle. So give the benefit of the doubt. And when you got a play clock, even the NFL guys are taught it. Look to see the zero. Don't anticipate zero on the play clock. See the zero, then go from there for the delay game penalty. So, especially at the high school level where we don't have many play clocks. Any questions on that side? Have you ever heard me talk about this one?
No.
No? Preventative officiating?
I mean, oh yeah, you've definitely said that multiple times.
Yeah.
I was reading that first line, and I was like, I don't know where we're going with this, but yeah, I got you. Yes,
Yes, the statistic I've never talked about, and that one I also stole. But they say an average play lasts about 7 seconds, and your interval between downs are between 25 and 40 seconds. I have 30 to 40 seconds, but those are your play clocks, 25 to 40 seconds. So if I can talk between in that 25 to 40 seconds, I think I'll be better off than throwing a flag every 7 seconds.
For sure.
it could be the second half. I'm calling over to the offensive guys. 65, hands inside. It's working back inside. And they'll look at me. I'm like, you were out here. Bring it back in here. No, okay. And be preventative for both sides. Let the kids. I like to say that. So that number 57 who's complaining that he was being held by 65, 57 hears me addressing 65. Hey, keep the hands inside, guys. 65, hands inside. So now he knows that, okay, I saw it. We're not going to allow it to continue, but I'm going to address it without having to throw the flag. All right, Daniel, we got about 2 more slides to go. So you want to take this one?
Absolutely. Communication, credibility, and common sense. Ooh, I love those 2 words together. Let's go.
Common sense is not too common.
Yeah, soft skills separate exceptional officials from mediocre ones. Communication excellence. The best officials are outstanding communicators who know when to listen and when to speak. I think we covered that last week, if I'm not mistaken.
We've talked about it.
Choose your words wisely and never belittle a coach in front of their own team. 100% agree. And coaches, you ought not be belittling the ref in front of your team. Hold your water too. Officiating is as much a people skills business as it is rules and mechanics. If you want respect, give respect, kill them with kindness. Always bring another official with you when talking to a coach. Prevents misquotes and keeps you calm. And don't get upset when I think that your mustache is good. You jerks. Building credibility. Credibility begins with getting the easy, obvious calls right. Love that one. Miss the obvious and you'll struggle to sell the tough call. Learn what the accepted calls are in your level of play. Don't try to revolutionize the game or make every possible call. Work through your local association if changes are needed. No one succeeds alone. I want to go back to that. Don't revolutionize the game, making every possible call. Once again, as long as you're freaking consistent.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a ticky-tacky ref, as long as when I turn that film back on Saturday morning, holds are holds, no matter what jersey's got the ball. And look, it can take us 5 hours to play a game. I'll be a little angry, but I just played a game till after midnight this year, or coached a game. So I truly don't care. I love it. In fact, we only guaranteed 10 of those. And
True.
So if they're a little longer, I just get a little more joy in my life. Make whatever calls you see, call it how you see it, but be consistent. That's that from the coaching side. I understand that not all coaches are like me. I've worked for guys who would chew your ass for doing your job, and I hate those guys. I don't work for those guys anymore. We steroids in their system.
We say it a lot as a crew that, okay, the kids are starting to get what we're putting down. The kids are starting to understand how we're calling the game, where the kid's looking for a ticky-tack foul, and all of a sudden you hear, yo, they're not calling the hold, so shut up and play football.
Right.
Bingo. We're not calling the hold.
We'll kind of come back to that because that's a very good point. Common sense in officiating. Common sense is sound practical judgment applied when rules don't specifically cover a situation. Parameters differ for everyone, so local associations should define common sense standards. Experienced mentors and fellow officials enhance judgment. That's what this podcast is doing. I know a guy in Oklahoma that listens because he wants to be a ref. So how about that? A well-rounded official applies common sense to rule knowledge and mechanics. A textbook official calls literally as written. The best officials balance rules with game sense. I want to go back to kind of what we're talking about, like, you don't like the ticky-tacky or the kids are catching on. How many times is a game turned into a violent, broken arm, quarterback gets a concussion, something stupid, and who's to blame? It's the refs. Well, you could have been calling these little things earlier and kept it from getting out of hand. That's what I want as a coach. If I get out of here, wins and losses are great.
Yep.
Wins are great, losses suck. But if I lose a kid because you refuse to do your job, to be well-balanced or well-rounded, I'm going to be a little more furious than I would have been because you called me for holding for the 5th time tonight.
Yep.
So at the most, this is we're in the kids business. Okay. That's 100%. That's kind of how we think about it as coaches. Don't ruin their experience, but if they suck at what they're doing, throw the laundry and we'll coach them up.
Yep.
Okay. But don't get one of them hurt and he starts losing games because you are too scared to throw that flag because, well, I've already thrown 4 tonight and the wing over there hasn't thrown any. And I feel like I know what mental, look, I I've been an NCO in the Army for 20 years, where all you are is on the spot corrections. I've been a safety man in a construction business where they hate the safety man. Okay, I was the official of the construction business. They hated me.
That's
I
like
know
being
what goes
internal
through your head
affairs.
when you've done a little too much and you start thinking, man, am I doing a little too much? Or when you walk away and go, I should have corrected that before it turned into something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
The standard's the standard. Coaches say it every single day. It's written on like 80% of freaking walls in high school locker rooms. So explain that to them. Coach, the standard's the standard. I'm going to call this the way I see it. Don't ever be afraid to do your job. And definitely, let's try to not get kids hurt.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, the rest of it, yes, common sense. But by God, if I lose a star player, or even this is my first game because mom was scared I was going to get hurt player, and now I get hurt because you won't do your job, we have a way bigger problem than coach is angry because I threw in my fourth flag of the night.
But this is now where, in my opinion, that's common sense. Because I'm going to do, going back to the previous slide, I'm going to do a ton of preventative officiating when I see the game starting to get a little chippy. I'm in their ears every single time. And I, as an umpire, have stopped the game multiple times in a game where I got both. I'll wait for the offense to come and line up over the ball. So now I got both teams over the ball, and I'll walk right up and I'll stand between there. I say, this is your last warning. Shut your mouth. Enough with the chippiness. Next one, you're getting banged for it. And sometimes that works. Other times, okay, next time, boom, now the flag's going up in the air, and now you're getting banged for it. Like, I'm going to do the best that I can to try not to do that. You got some hard hits. Sometimes injuries do happen, but if I'm letting kids sit there and late hit after late hit after late hit and not calling that, well, that's common sense stupidity on my point.
Yeah.
If that's even a
And we all
real
know
phrase.
kids will push the boundaries.
Absolutely.
Right? They will test your boundaries as a parent, as a coach, as a mentor. So as a
100%.
referee, I don't even know you, dude. I'm just out here, and we're going to see where the boundaries are.
And
Coaches
I might
do
not
it
ever
too.
see you again.
I've watched a coach go to the dadgum logo to coach his team at on a timeout. Like, what happened to the nines, homie? Where you at? Like, why are you so far out of here? You're what's going? And the refs ain't calling it, so he does it over and over again. So,
It gets away with it.
Anyway,
give an inch, take 9 yards.
That's right.
All right. Philosophy of excellence. This is what we're all striving for. You could take away officials. Philosophy of excellence of being a dad. Philosophy and excellence of being a coach, being a mom, being a grandparent, being a teacher, being a cook, whatever the heck it is. This is what we all should be striving for. But now we're talking specifically about officials. Let the game come to you. Okay, see what's happening, absorb the information, take the extra second to let it, as I say, marinate. Let it marinate before you decide the impact of the play. Okay, let it settle and answer those questions in your mind before you reach for that hanky, which again, I didn't do this past weekend. I got excited. Ooh, foul, flag, damn it. Let the game come to you. You know the rules. They don't always. Don't use them as a crutch. Rules are the foundation, not the limitation. So help your other officials out with the rules. Help everybody out. A quality and a master of officiating is somebody who can communicate exceptionally well with not just the players on the field, but the coaches, with their fellow officials, with everybody that is there, with saying hello to the trainers as they're walking on the field, to the game administrators that are there, to the athletic director that might be meeting you, to the security guards that might be walking you out. They're human. They're having bad days sometimes too. Like, just be professional about what you do. A master of their skill is not afraid to make that game deciding call or no call. So going back to what you were just talking about, Daniel, don't be afraid to make the right call. Have confidence in what you see and stand by it. And the way that you will have confidence is if you let it marinate and you could answer those questions in your head, then you're like, dadgummit, I got it. And then get it. A master conditionally adjusts their philosophy. Got to be flexible. Got to be flexible, adapting to the level of the game and the rules changes. Okay. What you talked about before, what we grew up watching on TV, all those hits by Ronnie Lott and by all those cats back in the 80s and 90s. Today, they're fouls. We got to be able to adjust, and we got to adjust our philosophy.
You're out
I
for a month and fined a bunch of money.
yeah, I'm an old school mindset when it comes to my coaching, the way that I coached. I'm let's go power, let's pound the rock and set up the play action. That's my philosophy. But I had to adapt because it's no longer a game today where I can sell it to a group of 14, 15, 16-year-olds that we're going to run the ball, dang it, because this is the way we're doing it. And this, no, we gotta be able to adapt to keep them interested, to keep them understanding, and to, well, the game's changed. It's now more of a passing league than it is a running league. So you got to be able to adapt and understand that as an official, we're lifelong learners. We are still getting our nose into that book. We are still listening to some weird guy from New Jersey with a funky mustache talking about rules every week. And we're still trying to get more ideas and always learn, because it's when you stop learning, that's when you're really in trouble. And again, that's life. You're always going to learn. I'm a dad. My kids are teenagers. I'm learning what that's like. Like, whoo. Because, man, my parents were wrong in what they told me back when I was a teenager. But, well, now that my kids are teenagers, man, mom and dad, thank you. You were right. Like, we're always learning.
I think a lot of those right there, Mike, are knowledge, right? Just competence, because competence breeds confidence. And like I said, don't use the rules as a crutch. Use them as a foundation. Like, here's the spirit of the rules. This is what we're trying to do. Did that actually break it or not?
Yep.
It all comes back to know what you're doing. Know your stinking job. Do your job, as the old Nick Saban head coach would say.
Yes, sir.
And the rest will kind of work out.
Daniel, I got our last slide for the night, and I'm going to let you take this one because this is something that you've kind of been preaching each time that I've had you on the show. So this one falls right in line where you can address us officials.
Whew, I've gone, that first line right there is killing me as a coach. I've been there. Final truth. Officials who feel they know it all, just insert dad, coach, whatever, will quickly be humbled in the world of officiating. The best officials approach every game with an attitude that says we never stop learning. Remember, the game belongs to the kids. Playing your role is to be the guardian of the game, ensuring fair competition where players can play, coaches can coach, and fans can enjoy. Absolutely. Yep. This comes back to extreme ownership, which is something I preach all the time. This comes back to common sense, which you have an entire slide over here. It don't be the one that ruins the night for whatever,
Yep.
22 kids at a time that are between the lines, right? Don't be the guy. We've all had that guy in our lives at some role. I can remember one, in very much so, that just ruined what you were trying to do because they were over the line with whatever regulations, rules, flags. Their philosophy was outdated. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Don't be that guy.
100%. This one's one of my favorite slides of all time right here.
I love it.
All right, my man. Thank you once again for taking the time to jump on here, learning and talking a little bit of philosophy, like Socrates. Oh, yeah, man. Socrates, talking philosophy.
I appreciate it, man. And you know, it goes back to, like, coaches better have a philosophy. You need to have a philosophy as a ref. Like, it's a never ending game. I almost disagreed with that little slide that said your philosophy should be able to adapt, because I think your philosophy is what you truly believe in at its core. I'll give it to you, though, because kind of the way it said it, like, things change, right? The world changes. Just like you said, smash mouth football goes away in circular periods of time, and we go to where we're doing more passing stuff, and then we come back. We see that right now. So your philosophy may not be outdated in 10 years, but don't waste the 9 years while you're waiting, right?
Keep learning. Keep learning.
I love it. Mike, thanks so much for letting me be a part of your show, man. I know that, you know, you're a ref, and this is for officials, and I'm not one, but I appreciate the ability to kind of impart my side. Yes. Look at you.
In due time, my friend, in due time, young Padawan.
Someday I'll get the encoder ring of the officials.
So, ladies and gents, if you want to go out there and become an official yourself, reach out to Daniel. He knows some people now. All right, brother man.
I'm sitting straight to Mike.
Truly appreciate you. Good luck in this coming weekends. Good luck to all the coaches out there with the playoffs. Good luck to all the officials that are working those playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, have fun, do what we do, and let the kids remember the game, not us. Have a good night, all. Be well.